A very good evening to all our viewers. You're watching Primetime News on TV1. For the News First team, I'm Newti Pasha. Before we head into your stories in detail, let's start off with a look at tonight's headlines.
News First headlines. Main sponsor.
Valuable Finance, best finance company.
Health trade union discussions with the minister inconclusive. Sri Lanka's relationship with India elevated to a strategic partnership. Foreign Minister G.L. Peiris makes a statement in India. 11 more Indian fishermen who encroached into the sea of Sri Lanka arrested. Fisheries organizations marched to Colombo seeking solutions. Profit of EPF and ETF to be taxed. A revelation by the opposition leader in parliament. Shortages in medicine, cement and milk powder continue. Will the Ceylon Petroleum Corporation increase the price of fuel? Backbench MPs make a request from the president.
News First headlines. Main sponsor.
Valuable Finance, best finance company.
Starting off with your top story tonight, the meeting between health sector trade unions and the Minister of Health ended inconclusively today. Thereby, the health trade unions decided to continue their strike action. 17 health sector trade unions are staging this strike action, citing 9 demands, including salary anomalies and promotions.
The protest march began around 10:30 this morning opposite the Vihara Mahadevi Park.
Issuing a statement, the Sri Lankan High Commission in India said the bilateral talks focused on a wide range of matters of mutual interest, which included economic cooperation, power and energy cooperation, connectivity and people-to-people contact. Foreign Minister G.L. Peiris has stated that the Trincomalee oil tank farm agreements signal a close integration between two countries, resulting in substantial benefits, a win-win situation for both. The prospects for renewable energy cooperation, particularly in wind and solar power sectors, were also discussed at the talks. During the talks, Foreign Minister G.L. Peiris also raised the fisheries issue, and the two sides have agreed on the urgent need to convene all bilateral mechanisms in this regard. Meanwhile, Indian National Security Advisor Ajit Doval and the Foreign Minister of Sri Lanka discussed a range of issues pertaining to the mutual strategic interests of the two countries. Minister G.L. Peiris extended an invitation to Minister Jaishankar to undertake an official visit to Sri Lanka in March this year. He also stated that Sri Lanka is very much looking forward for Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to Sri Lanka for the forthcoming BIMSTEC summit in March of 2022.
The key takeaway is the transformation of the relationship. It's elevation to the new level of a strategic partnership. It's always been a close relationship. We've had our ups and downs, we've had problems, as is usual and to be expected in any close relationship. But the main difference is that it is ceasing to be purely transactional. And value of our meeting this morning was to explore in some depth ways and means of making this a win-win situation for both countries through increased connectivity.
While the foreign ministers of Sri Lanka and India are locked in bilateral discussions on matters of strategic importance to both countries, 11 Indian fishermen were arrested by the Sri Lankan Navy while they were fishing illegally in the Sea of Sri Lanka. The Indian fishing crew was apprehended in the seas off the coast of Delft along with 3 of their boats. The Indian fishermen were produced before the Kites magistrate today and they were remanded until the 22nd of this month. Currently, a total of 32 Indian fishermen are in custody of Sri Lankan authorities for encroaching into the Sea of Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka has also planned to deport 56 Indian fishermen who were released from court. 5 Indian fishing boats belonging to the Tamil Nadu fishermen that were confiscated by the government of Sri Lanka were auctioned today at the Kankasanture Navy camp premises. Boats were auctioned at 431,500 rupees each. 135 boats were also sold on auction for 5.2 million rupees yesterday. 8 Indian fishing boats will be auctioned in Karachi tomorrow. Meanwhile, the Chief Minister of Tamil Nadu, M.K. Stalin, in a letter, has requested Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi's urgent intervention to stop the auctioning of Indian fishing vessels seized by Sri Lanka. Stalin, in his letter to Modi, said, quote-unquote, "This is not legal and also a matter of grave concern and therefore must be stopped." A group of Indian fishermen also staged a protest today in Pamban, Tamil Nadu, against the seizure of Indian boats by the Sri Lankan government. The All-Island General Fisheries Federation staged a protest opposite the Ministry of Fisheries, demanding solutions for the issues faced by Sri Lankan fishermen due to illegal encroachments by Indian fishermen into the Sea of Sri Lanka. Subsequently, the Minister of Fisheries, Douglas Devananda, met with the protesting fishermen.
India and the Katia Katakara, Zoom meeting again. Etra Mama Velavagia.
Otuma Balan, Kalpanakara, Obatumata, Utura and Navidiakne, Janata, Janata Patia,
Several representatives from the fishing associations were allowed to sit for a discussion with the minister at the ministry premises.
දෙරට අතර රාජතාන්ත්‍රික සාකච්ඡාවකින් කවදද මේක විසඳන්නේ? ඉන්දියා යාත්‍රා පැමිණෙන යාත්‍රා සියල්ල අත්අඩංගුවට ගන්න බලය තියෙනවා. අපි විශ්වාස කරන්නේ එන යාත්‍රාවලින් 100% ගාන අත්අඩංගුවට අරගෙන මාධ්‍ය සංදර්ශන පවත්වන්නේ කියලා.
The process of finding solutions to this issue through bilateral talks has been ongoing for years, but India does not show interest in this issue as much as we do. The next step is to take legal action. Their vessels are as big as trucks. Our boats are smaller than 3-wheelers. The number of boats coming into our waters might reduce if the seized boats are given to local fishermen. We caught 3 vessels last night. The minister also responded to the claims made by the protesters that he would face strong opposition from the communities in the northern province if he visited the area.
Jaffna Janta Bagilla Boba Genda Blua, Porticala Mametra Gi, Nikam Desavana Katanganderpa, Mage Janata, Mage Rete, Mankarana, Mata Langa, Koeri Janta Blua, Tauru Tata Andabe.
The discussion ended after the minister made an oral promise.
මේක අපි නීතිය හරියට ක්‍රියාත්මක කිරීම
කරනවා. ඒක පිළිගන්නම කරනවා. මගේ කටෙන් ඔයගොල්ලන්ග විශ්වාස කරන්නේ නැත්නම් කොහොමද? ඉස්සරට එක මට අද හෙට අනිද්දා එන්න. අපි ඒක සාකච්ඡා කරලා මම විසඳුමක් කරලා අපිට අපොයින්ට් එකක් දාමු.
India provides a grant to assist the digital ID system. Cabinet of Ministers today granted approval to sign a memorandum of understanding with India to obtain a grant to implement the Unitary Digital Identity Framework. Under the proposed Unitary Digital Identity Framework, it is expected to introduce a personal identity verification device based on biometric data, a digital tool that can represent the identities of individuals in cyberspace and the identification of individual identities that can be accurately verified in digital and physical environments by combining the two devices. After a meeting between the President and the Indian Prime Minister in December 2019, the Indian government has agreed to provide the necessary assistance to the matter. The cabinet paper presented to the President to enter into a memorandum of understanding with India has been approved by the cabinet. Minister Namal Rajapaksa has thanked Prime Minister Narendra Modi for his decision to assist Sri Lanka as per the request made by the President.
Gautam Madani, the Indian billionaire and founder of the Adani Group, who invested in the West Container Terminal in Sri Lanka, is now Asia's richest person. According to the Bloomberg Billionaires Index, the 59-year-old mogul's net worth reached $88.5 billion yesterday. Gautam Madani owns a conglomerate attached to ports, mines and green energy sectors. He overtook Mukesh Ambani to become the wealthiest person in Asia.
On to another headline-making story tonight. The government is preparing to tax on the income of the Employees' Provident Fund and the Retirement Gratuity Fund that holds the money of the working class of the country. Now, raising a question on this matter, the opposition leader pointed out that the proposed surcharge tax bill will enable the government to acquire 65 billion rupees.
What is this new law?
The government has passed a bill titled the Surcharge Tax Bill and is due to be passed in Parliament soon. According to the bill, the surcharge tax will be levied for any individual, partnership or company whose taxable income calculated in accordance with the provision of the Inland Revenue Act number 24 of 2017 exceeds 2,000 million rupees for the year of assessment commencing on the 1st of April 2020 at the rate of 25%. This is a one-time tax that will be levied.
How will this affect the Employees' Provident Fund?
The company is defined in the bill as having the same meaning assigned to the word under the Inland Revenue Act number 24 of 2017. According to the definition of the Inland Revenue Act, a company is included in the definition of a provident fund, a pension gratuity fund or a similar fund. Thereby, the income of the Employees' Provident Fund, the Retirement Gratuity Fund and a number of other funds will be taxed at a rate of 25%.
A surcharge tax bill has been published to loot the money of the working class of this country. The Employees' Provident Fund is the biggest fund in the country. It is valued at 3 trillion rupees. The profit of the EPF in 2020 was roughly 250 billion rupees. This 25% tax would then amount to about 65 billion rupees. This group is trying to steal the money of the working class of this country. Honorable Chairman, they have started a new program to construct 100,000 projects. They are trying to take out money from the working class of this country and hand over these projects to their cronies so that they can satisfy them. I request the Finance Minister, do not do this. Do not loot the money of the working class of this country. Please withdraw this gazette immediately. We all know that the people running the country right now are those who looted money from the EPF in the past. That is the true story. So I request you, Honourable Speaker, to remove the EPF and the gratuity fund from the bill that imposes a 25% surcharge tax.
We hope to answer all the written questions forwarded by the opposition leader, but we will not respond to gossip. The government will answer everything that has been written doon here.
උද්දමන වේගය ජීවන බර වැඩිවීම බඩු මිල වැඩිවීම
Honorable Opposition Leader
උපදූප හැටියට මේ ඇමතිතුමා හඳුන්වන්නේ
Honorable Deputy Speaker, he has made a request under 28(2). He made his statement as well. We only said that we will provide answers to everything that has been presented to us in writing.
අපි කිව්වේ ලිඛිතව තියෙන හැම දෙයකටම අපි රාජ්‍යයක් හැටියට උත්තර දෙනවා කියලා. එච්චරයි.
Honorable Opposition Leader. Honorable Opposition Leader.
මට වාක්‍ය
Honorable Opposition Leader, you have made your presentation and the government will
අපේ ශ්‍රමික ජනතාවගේ ඒ ප්‍රේෂණ වලට.
Thank you, Opposition Leader. Thank you very much. Honorable Harsha D. Silva. Honorable Harsha D. Silva, this is not part of the agenda. Thank you very much. Honorable Member, what is the point of order?
My point of order is that the agenda for today was prepared by the government. The opposition leader asked a question of national importance. It was right that the Minister of Finance had been present and the government had given an answer, because right now...
So Honorable Jonathan Fernando has said the government will make the answer. Thank you.
Why can't the government answer that?
So,
this man doesn't have the brains.
Honorable Opposition Leader.
Honorable Chairman.
Yes.
I'm trying to explain to you in English. There is a convention when the opposition leader is on his feet, on his or her feet. There's a convention, right? There's a custom that you are allowed to speak and your mic is not abruptly switched off. Why are you all engaging on such unparliamentary practice? What's this nonsense? Are you unable from that so-called august chair to control the mic?
Thank you, Leader of Opposition.
Please, thank you. You answer my question.
Many politicians from across party lines also spoke about the matters raised in Parliament by opposition leader Sajith Premadasa.
Basil Rajapaksa started a program called the 100,000 Projects. Through that program, they will distribute the money among local politicians. Everyone knows that they are doing this to prepare for the election. So to meet the need to fund their political campaigns, they are going to tax the money of more than 2 million people who earn a daily wage. We urge the government to reveal the truth behind this. If they have imposed such a levy, we will force this government to reverse it.
අපි බල කරනවා රජයට කරුණාකර මේක රිවර්ස් කරගන්න.
The income from the investments made by the EPF stands at 276 billion rupees. If the proposed tax, which is about 69 billion of this value, is levied, the annual interest that EPF beneficiaries are entitled to will reduce by 3%. People who work for the government pay taxes to the government. They pay taxes to cover the cost of investments. In addition to all of that, the government collects the money from the 2.6 million employees and tax that fund as well in the form of a super gains tax, just because it is above 2,000 million. We would like to state that this is a serious mistake. This is a crime. This is a robbery, and we will not allow this to happen. This government of Gautam Rajapaksa is a government that loots the people. The government has taken a swing at the country, the employees and the fund, and in the process they continue to burden the people. When they bragged saying that they would complete 100,000 projects, we had a serious concern on how they are going to find the funds to do it. Now we have the answer. The government is going to loot from the Employees Provident Fund. The government is going to obtain funds to carry out these projects from innocent employees in the private sector. We need to make this clear to the government. Stop trying to loot money from the Employees Provident Fund. By using the EPF and ETF funds to maintain low interest rates, a great injustice has already been done to millions of people who contribute to the EPF and the ETF fund. On top of this injustice, another tax is imposed on them. Our dollar reserves have fallen down drastically. Currently, the reserves are around $500 million US. Under such a situation, now they are going to spend billions to complete 100,000 development projects. They are providing loans for local investors to construct expressways. This country cannot afford these projects. According to the data revealed by the central bank on the 3rd of this month, the deficit of the central bank stands at 579 billion rupees.
Sri Lanka's foreign reserves have declined by US $778 million in January this year to US $2.4 billion, a 25% decline compared to $3.1 billion US last month. The drop is reported from the country's foreign currency reserves and gold reserves. Foreign currency reserves during January 2022 dropped to $2 billion US, while gold reserves dropped to $92 million US from $175.4 million US in December last year. Speaking at the cabinet media briefing this morning, co-cabinet spokesperson Minister Ramesh Patinona said the Sri Lankan authorities have held discussions with the IMF pertaining to the current economic situation in the country.
Well, there are ongoing discussions pertaining to this economic situation of the country, and as we indicated several times, I reiterated the fact that we keep our doors open for all the agencies to talk with us. So it's including International Monetary Fund. Yes, we have been speaking to them. They constantly visit Sri Lanka also. Last statement of Finance Minister was covering the technical assistance, but also we talk to them on long-term basis, and we talk to Asian Development Bank and also the World Bank. Also other countries who have helped us over a period of time, that is including Japan, China and India. So we are looking at different avenues. So we will look at those different options available, and we'll manage the current scenarios. It's very clear that we are facing a foreign currency deficit, and also we need to manage that situation. We are very hopeful that with the tourism industry bouncing back, and also we are getting more remittances from the expat workers. So we hope that we should be able to manage the scenario.
The Financial Times reported that investors are braced for Sri Lanka to default during the COVID-19 pandemic, saying they expect the country to restructure its debt and call on the IMF for assistance as its financial crisis worsens. Speaking to the Financial Times, international investors said that although Sri Lanka is demonstrating an amazing willingness to pay, the country is wasting precious foreign exchange reserves, delaying the inevitable. The article further says that the government's next big challenge is the $1 billion bond repayment due in July. The article adds that if Sri Lanka fails to pay, the country would join countries including Suriname, Belize, Zambia and Ecuador in defaulting on its debt following the pandemic. Another investor told Financial Times that a restructuring over the next 12 months should be the base case scenario, adding that it is difficult to see Sri Lanka muddling through this year.
Let's now toss over to a short commercial break. Do stay with News First. We will be right back.
Valuable Finance, best finance company.
Tech Bus. The first phase of the Tech Bus initiative, successfully held at St. Andrews College in Puttalam.
ස්ලිට් ආයතනයත් එක්ක බොහොම සාර්ථක වැඩසටහනක් කරා. සමාජ මාධ්‍ය ජාල ගොඩක් පාවිච්චි කරනවා. කොහොමද ආරක්ෂිතව අපේ වැඩ කරගන්නේ කියලා ලොකු දැනුමක් හම්බුණා. අපේ අයට ලොකු දැනුමක් ලැබුණා කියලා මම හිතනවා. ඇත්තටම බෙහෙවින්ම ස්තුතියි.
මේ මෙහෙවර සාර්ථක වේවා කියලා ඊට සිතින් ප්‍රාර්ථනා කරනවා.
Tech Bus.
Organised by Slit Institute.
Tech Bus.
Main sponsor.
Slit Knowledge University, challenging convention and redefining education.
Welcome back to the news. A Sri Lankan delegation met with representatives of the European Union in Brussels today.
Gunnar Wiegand, the Managing Director for Asia and the Pacific at the European External Action Service, welcomed the Sri Lankan delegation led by Foreign Secretary Admiral Professor Jayanath Columbage. Gunnar Wiegand tweeted that the meeting will focus on strengthened cooperation under the EU's Indo-Pacific strategy, as well as on reconciliation efforts and amendments to the Prevention of Terrorism Act. The recent publication of the proposed amendments to the Prevention of Terrorism Act was met with both criticism and praise, while others viewed it as too little a change from the draconian law. The Human Rights Watch urged the European Union to press time-bound action to repeal the Prevention of Terrorism Act and reject the Sri Lankan government's proposed amendments. The Human Rights Watch in a report states that the proposed amendments leave the most often abused provisions of the law intact, and if enacted, will do little to bring the PTA into compliance with Sri Lanka's international human rights obligations. It adds that if the amendments are adopted, the PTA would still not meet any of the 5 necessary prerequisites described by 7 United Nations Special Rapporteurs in December 2021 to comply with international human rights standards. Speaking on our Face the Nation program yesterday, the former Commissioner of the Human Rights Commission, Ambiga Sadgunanathan, said matters pertaining to the PTA should not only be discussed when the country is reviewed by the international community.
I don't think we should discuss transitional justice or accountability or disappearance or the PTA only when we are being reviewed for GSP plus privileges or just before the Human Rights Council sessions. That is where the problem is. Not that we debate it during this time, but only the point is we debate it only during this time. And that is where the problem lies.
Shortage of essential items including milk powder, gas, cement and even medicine continues to prevail in the Sri Lankan market. When will this crisis be resolved and how will that be done?
This was a queue to obtain milk powder in Maga, Lagol. Our correspondent reported that after standing in the queue for nearly 2 hours, customers were given 1 packet of milk powder each. Meanwhile, speaking in Parliament, former Minister of Health Dr. Rajitha Senaratne revealed information regarding the shortage of medicine in the market. It has been reported that close to 80 government hospitals do not have essential medicines. Even though there is nominal price control, pharmacies do not control prices. Medicines are being bought for higher prices. One reason behind this is the foreign currency issue. But I have seen some companies paying demurrage worth more than 300 million rupees. All of this contributes to the price. I wonder how many cancer patients died without medicine. That is the reality. Two companies have no restrictions. They get some activities done within 24 hours. By doing so, one entity has power over one variety of medicine in the market. Then it will take close to 6 to 7 months, thereby allowing that single company to earn profits. They will have the ability to control the prices and sell it at the rates they please. Meanwhile, a storage of cement is reported from several parts of the island. We have asked our workers to take turns. The reason is that we don't have cement to do our job. There were times when we couldn't find cement for around 2 weeks. Several factions pointed out that due to the shortage of cement, industries built around the use of cement as raw materials are in jeopardy. Many customers turn back after they hear the price. We also can't sell it for a lesser price. Every price has increased. A breeze block that we sold for 48 rupees earlier is now 58 rupees. Not only cement, but all other building materials are also sold on their own discretions. This is the status of our country today. We have to spend nearly 3 times the amount we spent earlier to build and complete a house. We are helpless here. Meanwhile, the Lanka Ready Mix Concrete Manufacturers Association alleges that their industry is at risk due to the shortage of cement. The association points out that in addition to the shortage of cement, there is a serious problem with the quality of cement imported to Sri Lanka. The Standards Institute of Sri Lanka states that steps will be taken to ensure that the cement imported into the country is in compliance with its standards and are released to the market without a delay. The institute states that there is no way to import substandard cement into the country. Meanwhile, losses incurred by the Ceylon Petroleum Corporation have increased after the Lanka IOC increased the prices of petrol and diesel. Chairman of the Ceylon Petroleum Corporation, Sumit Vijayasinghe, says that the CPC is unable to bear further losses. The price of diesel when it is unloaded at the Colombo port has increased to 42 rupees and 50 cents. The price of petrol has increased to 136 rupees and 41 cents. If you look at the price as of today, if this is maintained for the entire month, we will lose 48 rupees and 30 cents per litre of diesel. We will incur a loss of 15 rupees and 68 cents. Lanka IOC has implemented alternative measures to reduce their losses. With the LIOC increasing their prices, consumers who purchased fuel from IOC filling stations will be encouraged to visit Sipetco filling stations. With customers coming to Sipetco filling stations and with the losses incurred by the IOC, the losses the CPC incurred will be increased. We have informed the government regarding the matter. We have informed the ministry. The CPC has informed them regarding the fuel price increase. The Ceylon Petroleum Corporation is a business. As the CPC, we hope a price increase will take place soon.
සංස්ථාව දිගින් දිගටම ඉල්ලීමක් කළා තියෙන්නේ. සංස්ථාව කරන්නේ ව්‍යාපාරයක්. ළඟදී මිල වැඩි කිරීමක් ලබා දෙයි කියන බලාපොරොත්තුව සංස්ථාවට අපිට තියෙනවා. සමහරකට අමුතුම රට යනකම් ඉන්නවත් දන්නේ නැහැ නේද?
Moving on, All Ceylon Agrarian Federation says that the benefit of the guaranteed price fixed by the government for paddy is reaped by corrupt businessmen instead of farmers.
The All Ceylon Agrarian Federation visited the government paddy storage in Kanduruvela in Polonnaruwa with the intention of confirming a piece of information they had received. The paddy harvest of the Polonnaruwa district is yet to be reaped. However, the government storage in Kanduruvela was full of fresh paddy.
There are more than 700,000 kilograms of paddy stored here. Moreover, paddy is weighed in other stores as well. These magical paddy harvests are not being reaped, but the storages are full. Paddy harvests are being reaped in Ampara. Only the Mantota storage in Ampara is open. Every other storage is closed. A price of a kilogram of paddy in Ampara is 80 rupees. Storages in Kantale are not open. A price of a kilogram of paddy is 58 rupees. A kilogram of paddy is sold at 75 rupees in Vaunia, Kilinochi and Mana. But storages in those areas are closed, while storages in Polonnaruwa are opened. But paddy harvests are not being reaped in Polonnaruwa. It is clear that cunning businessmen are buying paddy at a low price, drying them and selling stocks at 102 rupees after bringing them to storage. This is a game. Paddy that was purchased for 50 to 60 rupees are still in the possession of intermediary factions. That paddy is being sold to the government at 102 rupees. If the paddy is coming to storage at 102 rupees after receiving it from farmers at 58 to 75 rupees or even 80 rupees, there is a problem.
In more news here at home, a series of public rallies organized by the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna will be held tomorrow.
A march is to commence from the Salgadu grounds in Anuradhapura tomorrow.
We will take part in this rally to secure the identity of the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna. A large group is to gather in Anuradhapura tomorrow to show their support to the President and the Prime Minister. We have always started our inaugural rallies from Anuradhapura. We are not targeting the election through these rallies.
The backbenchers of the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna convened a media briefing today.
After a team meeting, some members went to meet the President in his office. There they were able to discuss several prevailing issues in the country. We explained to him what the public expected when they casted their vote to him. Our voters wanted a leader like Hitler or Putin. During elections, several views were expressed on crocodiles and white vans. People expected the President to be a strong leader. But however, in order to have a good relationship with the international communities and to ensure democracy in the land, our President is following a quite humble approach in ruling the country. During our meeting with the President, we told the President to let go of these humble qualities and to bring out his true self and to have a more strict approach in ruling the country. We need to do this even for a short time. We cannot continue like this.
බුතුමාගේ අර සැඟවිලා ඉන්න කියන චරිතය එළියට අරගෙන දරඳරු පාලනයක් කෙටි කාලයකට හරි ගෙනියන්නේ. එහෙම නැතුව මේ වැඩේ කරන්න පුළුවන් කමක් නැහැ.
Taking a look at some news overseas, French President Emmanuel Macron brought his diplomatic effort to defuse the crisis over Ukraine to its capital of Kiev, a day after hours of talks with Russian President Vladimir Putin yielded no apparent breakthrough. Now, Macron met with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky as fears of a possible Russian invasion mounts. Moscow has massed over 100,000 troops near Ukraine's borders, but insists it has no plans to attack.
The Kremlin wants guarantees from the West that NATO will not accept Ukraine and other former Soviet nations as members, that it will halt weapon deployments there and roll back its forces from Eastern Europe, demands the US and NATO reject as non-starters. Western leaders in recent weeks have engaged in multiple rounds of diplomacy in the hope of de-escalating the tensions and preventing an attack. High-level talks have taken place against the backdrop of military drills in Russia and Belarus. Russia's defense ministry said 6 large landing ships were moving from the Mediterranean to the Black Sea for exercises. Macron's talks with Putin yesterday lasted more than 5 hours, and the French leader told reporters that they allowed him to ensure that there is no degradation and no further escalation. Putin said after the meeting that the US and NATO ignored Moscow's demands but signaled his readiness to continue talking. Meanwhile, US President Joe Biden met German Chancellor Olaf Scholz in Washington and threatened to shut down a key Russian gas pipeline to Germany if Moscow invaded Ukraine. US officials believe Russia has assembled
to keep you abreast of the controversy that has grappled a battle for the title of Mrs. Sri Lanka for Mrs. World.
The Battle of the Beauties. Previously on the Battle of the Beauties.
The usual to the title of Mrs. Sri Lanka is filled with poise and composure. This year, it descended into chaos when the former title holder declared that the winner of the Mrs. Sri Lanka was ineligible because she was divorced. In a puzzling ending to the glamorous event, after Pushpika De Silva was officially crowned as the winner, the former title holder took off her crown. The former title holder then crowned the first runner-up as the new winner of the Mrs. Sri Lanka pageant. The confusion was addressed when the national director of Mrs. Sri Lanka for Mrs. World pageant, Chandimal Jayasinghe, announced that Pushpika De Silva was in fact the winner and returned the crown to her. Although the confusion was put to rest, little did we know that the controversy will only intensify. Pushpika De Silva went on to compete at the coveted Mrs. World contest and was placed among the top 6. Pushpika De Silva claimed that she was placed 4th. The claim caught the eye of many people interested in the pageant who found this claim to be far from the truth. Those familiar with the pageant pointed out that the Mrs. World pageant had historically only named the top 3 and that 4th place is not actually announced or awarded at the pageant. Speaking during an interview on local media, Pushpika De Silva levelled a startling accusation against the mayor of Colombo, Rosie Senanaika, who herself had won the Mrs. World in the past. Pushpika De Silva claimed that she could have won the Mrs. World title if the mayor had not attended the pageant held last month. The mayor of Colombo and former Mrs. World winner Rosie Senanaika was swift to respond to this. She sent a letter of demand claiming 500 million rupees in damages, a public apology and an undertaking that such statements are not repeated. All of these incidents led to the height of the controversy. The news only came in today. Pushpika De Silva's title of Mrs. Sri Lanka for Mrs. World 2021 has been denounced. The announcement was made through a statement issued by Chandimal Jayasinghe, the National Director for Mrs. World Sri Lanka for Mrs. World. In a statement, Jayasinghe said that the recent controversy surrounding Mrs. Pushpika De Silva, the 2021 title holder of Mrs. Sri Lanka for the Mrs. World pageant, has taken a toll not only in the local sphere but also before the international community, jeopardizing the reputation of Sri Lanka globally. He says, this conduct of Mrs. Pushpika De Silva, the title holder of the 2021 Mrs. Sri Lanka for Mrs. World, is in serious violation of the discipline and the ethical standards expected of a beauty queen, or most significantly of an ambassador representing one's own country in any capacity, whether being local or international.
The Battle of the Beauties.
And with that, it's a wrap of primetime news here on TV1. For the News First team, I've been Nyuki Poshia, along with our sign language interpreter Tharka Gabriel via Zoom. Take care and good night.